Welcome to Talking Funny Cars with Buddy Hall. We have a special guest today, Daniel Wilkerson. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, buddy.
You're very welcome. So, first full year Nitro Funny Car. We know you've been driving them a lot in the past, and you've been tuning them a lot in the past. But let's talk about this first. Do you feel you were destined to be a funny car driver?
No, I don't think anyone's really destined to this. It takes so much hustle, right? And honestly, a lot of stuff has to fall right in place. But the word destined to me, almost like when you're born for it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's born to do this. I think it takes a lot of work.
It does take a lot of work.
I think
We know
it
that.
takes a lot of work and a lot of focus. So destined, maybe not, but I was bred for it. I mean, I watched thousands of runs. So
You did.
maybe not even on purpose. Maybe just because that's what I like to do, right?
Sure.
But it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out really well for you. So, you've driven them, you've tuned them. Let's rewind back a little bit. Something that the audience may not know about, which is your experience in Top Alcohol Funny Car. I'd like to talk to you about that a little bit. Tell us about that experience and how you work through that, and how you use those skills in the big car.
So I don't have a lot of regrets in my life, or like I don't get hung up on timing of things. But one of the only things that I wish I could change is that I had met my wife 2 years earlier, so she could have hung out with me when we ran the alcohol car.
That's cool.
Literally some of the best times of my life. I miss that car every day. You could take 3 of your friends, you go race the damn thing, you could win, and you come back, you work on it at night, after work, between work some days. And when I met my wife, we had just sold it. And I was like, you got to do this racing thing with me. It's so fun. And then all she knows is fuel cars. So all she knows is
Work.
a shit ton of work.
That's right.
It's like, I thought you said there's fun squeaked in here. There is, but it's just so much more work to run a fuel car.
It is.
And we learned a lot route car racing. It was fun.
Yeah, and I think during that time, I've heard stories from your dad. You and Frank Mandolini had an interesting relationship.
Yeah.
Old Frank, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So Mandolini is like the school of hard knocks. Okay.
Yep.
And actually another guy you can call him a bear, right? He's either a teddy bear or a grizzly bear. And I've seen literally in 10 seconds, I've talked to both at the same time. He was really good at, so I'd come back from a run and be like, hey man, that was sweet. What do you think? He's like, I think you left too low. I was like, how? And then we set low, right? He's like, sound about 200 low to me. And I'd just be like, get out of here.
Yep.
We'd swear back and forth. And honestly, a lot of times I'd be rolling around on the trailer afterwards. This dude, we were in Norwalk, Ohio. It was the same thing. I left like 100 too high, he said. I was like,
how do you know?
So that tack sits there like this, right?
Yep.
I said, dude, if I get 100 on either side, if you say 65 and it's 64 or 66, I claim victory, right? Like I did it.
Yep.
He's like, we went faster if you're less than 65, like I told you. And I said, you Fred?
Yeah.
I was like, no, man. He picked me up. He walked me outside and he dropped me in the trash can. I was hitting him.
That's
I was
amazing.
trying to get away. I was kicking him. I was doing all I could to get away. Yep. It was like I was a mouse and he was the cat, right? He just
Your dad told me that story, and those are the types of characters that kind of build drag racing, right? And then built your character, and taught you a lot. I mean, I know he must have taught you a ton.
Oh man, we learned. So you can learn a lot from a guy like that about engines.
Oh yeah,
I learned a ton about life from that guy, and it applies to racing in a lot of different ways. The obvious stuff, the harder you work, the better your car runs. He used to tell me. We'd show up and he's like, well, this race it's as good as lost because I can tell you didn't do shit when you were at home. I'm like, no, man, we tried. We worked really hard. He's like, showed up here. These clutch discs ain't cut. You got to cut these. We might as well just stayed home. The race is won and lost at the shop. And we got here all half-assed. Yep. So that was the first race I went to with him. I never did that again.
Yeah. You should have prepared the next time.
We showed up 110% prepared next time. If we were supposed to do 6 runs, we could do 8 from then on because I wasn't listening to that again.
Yeah. And, your dad, I think, set you up on that path. Let's be real about it. You know, I think your dad wanted to set you up with that situation to teach you a lot away from your dad's hands and his oversight. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And a part of it, maybe it was 50-50. It's kind of a product of he was busy, man. He was running a full-time funny car, right?
Yeah.
So if we wanted to do this, if we wanted to go run, 12 races in the alcohol car, we had to separate at some point.
Yeah.
You couldn't do both. It's impossible. We tried the year before. We had a torque converter car in 06, and we went to like 5. And the torque converter car was cool because it wasn't as much work. We literally would take the inspection cover off and set a fan on the bell housing. And it was like, okay, clutch is done.
Yep, run the valve.
Now I guess I'll go around the valve. Yep. So we did that for a while, but the technology wasn't quite there yet. It was a little slower. So once we decided to commit to the thing, it was just he had to not be involved anymore.
Yeah.
And it taught me how to race because I didn't have my daddy hold my hand anymore.
That's right. And one thing you're leaving out though is the winning. You did a lot of winning during that time.
We did pretty good. Yeah. And that's definitely a product. Again, the whole thing. I mean, I was just the lucky guy that got to drive the thing. But Tim set us up for success, and Fred guided the ship, steered the ship, and we did good. We won the Division III championship in 2007.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know you did. That was a great era for you. Yeah. It taught you how to win. Yeah. And set you up for success and where you're at right now. Yeah.
It definitely taught me the ups and downs of this stupid sport too. Because in 07, we kicked everybody's ass. We looked like we were heroes. And then in 08, we showed up and I could hit the broadside of the barn. It was terrible. That's amazing. It's like, oh man, this sport, I forgot about this part.
Yeah. Yeah. You forgot what it takes, right? Sometimes.
Well, we're doing a lot of things right. It's just how it goes. We got a couple good breaks in 07 and we got 0 breaks in 08. So it just didn't fall our way. And it just kicks you right in the nuts every time.
That's right. Daniel, we got to know, your dad, Tim Wilkerson, a lot of wins there, a lot of experience there, a lot of everything there, right? He's been at it a long time. What has he taught you so far?
I don't know. That's a hard one to narrow down. When you, he's my really good friend, right?
Yep.
So you hang out with somebody for 35 years, you kind of just pick up on everything. Sometimes a lot of the lessons I learned from him, he didn't really tell me. He didn't set me down and say, all right, son, you just watch. You just pick it up, right? Fair. Like, and some things you tweak, right? Like he's, again, like we were talking about with Fred, he is a bear. He can either be a grizzly bear or a teddy bear. And for a long time, all I really knew was the teddy bear. And we start hanging out with everybody at the racetrack. And all of a sudden you're like, that guy getting on that footy car was mean just now. What the hell happened? That's not the guy. That's not the guy that put me to bed.
That's not my dad.
That's not my dad. So and you learn about people management. I mean, he is really good at coming down on people in a nurturing way. And I hate to sound like an old guy, but some of these kids don't respond well to that now. It's like he's too mean.
Yeah.
So I've taken him aside a couple of times. I'm like, hey man, I know with like Red Rediker and people in the 90s, you could like me and you could scream at each other.
That's right.
And then be over it 5 minutes later.
That's right.
These guys cannot. So now we're sharing information back the other way now. So the people management has been a huge thing. Watching him. This is actually something he does say all the time. Cool heads prevail. I don't know where that came from. I think it was from World War II. I don't know who said it, but this cool heads prevail thing has been
he's right
an insane mantra. Sometimes, I mean, in my alcohol car, sometimes I'd be back up from the burnout and I could feel myself. I just got goosebumps. I could feel myself getting wound up. Like, all right, come on, we got to get these guys. Oh God, everything's on the line. And I could hear him. Just calm down, man.
Yep.
Take a breath. You ain't gonna run with a shit like this, like all wound up.
That's right.
You're not good like that.
That's right.
So take some deep breaths. Cool heads prevail. And he's right every time, dude. Every time you see, if you got a car that won't start in the pits, everyone's running around like a maniac. The guy that's standing there going like this is the guy that says, hey, we should unplug that trigger. I bet that's what's wrong. And then you do that and it works.
Yeah.
So that cool heads prevail is probably the biggest thing. He's actually sat me down and been like, take a breath, calm down.
Yeah, that's right. I've had some mentorship from your father, and I've had that conversation with your dad, right? Yep. We all get wound up, and sometimes it takes that older generation to sometimes pull the reins back on us and tighten up and say, hey, calm down. Yeah. It's all going to be okay.
Chill out.
Yeah, chill out, right? And so, obviously taught you a ton over the years, but if you were going to teach a brand new driver something about a fuel funny car, what would it be?
Man, that is an excellent question. So this is actually something he said too. There's always another run. If you are remotely in trouble, shut the stupid thing off. It's not that big a deal. We can always come back.
I've heard this before.
Yes. So I think that one is probably the best for a new guy. Everybody feels like they got to get the thing to the end, right?
Yep.
And I actually did that in my alcohol car. I tagged the wall the 4th or 5th run I made in the alcohol car. And all right, Mom, if you're watching, you got to stop watching. I got to tell a story. So
Yeah,
we
Mom.
got this alcohol car. Just turn away. We got this alcohol car, and my mom is freaking out. She's like, "You got to drive it first." Talking to Tim. Because you can't put my baby boy in something that I.
Yeah, because you were 19, 20?
I was 8. I was 17.
17.
17.
I mean, you're really young.
Yes.
I remember.
I was 17. So you can't do this to my baby boy. You got to drive it. So it's got. I told you it had a torque converter in it.
Yep.
So to make a long story longer, so we had a special pedal in this thing. It's supposed to leave right at 3,500, and you slid the whole pedal forward, and that got you 3,500, and then you would let go of the trans brake and floor it at the same time. That's how it.
Okay.
That's how it operated. Tim tried it like 4 times. He could not get it to do it one time. So he couldn't get
the motions right.
He couldn't get all that because he's just. I mean,
he's a Feel Funny car
for
driver.
20 years he's been going bloop bloop bloop. Bop, you know what I mean? So he's got a routine down.
Yep.
And I screwed it all up. So eventually he just idles off. He leans on the gas. He sticks it in second and he shuts it off. But he calls my mom and he's like, "Yeah, it works great. Made a good run."
Love it.
Full of beans. So yeah, I
love it.
I get there and he's like, "Okay,
Mom, you didn't hear this story."
He's like, "I did not make a full run, but it'll be fine." I drove it down there. I was going pretty fast. It's fine. So I make my first run. He said, "Just stick in second, shut it off." Did that.
How'd you do, by the way?
I did.
Did you get it?
Fuck, first
Better
time.
than him?
First time, bro.
Did you remind him?
I don't mean to.
That's right.
I don't mean to brag. Got it the first time. But honestly, I was used to drive my super comp car, and it's kind of like,
Of course.
it's the same.
Very similar.
Routine's very similar.
Yeah.
So he was actually like, "You're not going to be able to get this." And then I just got it.
Nice.
So anyway.
You gotta love those moments.
I digress. So the first run, I stick it in second. We're good. The next run, I go stick it high, and I'm like, "That's weird. I thought it would." No, shut it off. Come back and he said, "Well, you didn't stick it high." I said, "I promise you I did. I hit the stupid button. Nothing happened."
Yeah.
"Nah, you don't know what you're doing." I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I got it down there.
Yeah, I got off starting
I
line
was
there.
like, "Where are you?" So we actually come back and the transmission was messed up. So it wasn't. I stuck it high and it blew the transmission, that part of the gate, into smithereens. So we fix it. We come back the next day. And I'm steering. I'm telling you, dude, I got the wheel like this.
Cranking on it.
And we've been there in funny cars.
Oh, yeah.
Fuel cars do this, but alcohol cars not supposed to do this. I got like this, and it's just not coming. And I'm like, it'll for sure come back. It'll for sure.
Know that feeling.
It'll for sure come.
Know
And
that
I
feeling.
said it's not. So I shut it off, and it just caught with the back quarter. It caught the wall. And I live that. I swear I live that moment sometimes where I'm like, "Hey, remember that one time you thought I was going to come back?
Taught
This
you
is
lesson.
where you are. Shut it off." So I think I just John forced you, but to get back to the beginning, that's the thing that lives with me, man. I can never forget that lesson.
Well, and all the lessons led you to this point, and I think with you and your dad, you guys have a unique relationship, and you've had all these great mentors along the way, and you've had all these experiences, and so the passion that you have for the sport. I want you to describe that in one sentence, just one sentence.
Everything I got. This stupid sport, I don't understand how it can do this to you, but you feel like while you're doing it that nothing else matters. And sometimes I actually have to pull myself back and say, it's not the only thing in the world. But when you're doing it, literally nothing else matters. It's insane. The way it consumes you is undescribable.
What's it like? Well, what was it like the first time you stabbed the pedal on that Feel Funny car? And that was 10, 12 years ago? How long ago was that?
Yeah, I think it was 08. This is
okay.
My friend Todd Vinny makes fun of me because I cannot remember any of these statistics. Vinny will tell me the light I had in the finals at the 2008 points race at Norwalk, and I'm like, bro, I don't know where you keep all these. I can barely remember what year I got my license. So yeah, it was 08 though, because we were still running the alcohol car. I did both, not the same race, but we were intermixing them. So honestly, I'm gonna skip the first 2 runs. So we were at the points race at Joliet, and I went 560 at 250 mile an hour, 55, something like that.
In the alcohol car.
In the alcohol car.
Yep.
So we come back the next day, and I said, so I'm gonna get my license. It's like, Tim, where do you want me to shut it off? Shut it off wherever you want. he said, I mean, you just went 550. If you just drive it to the end, I don't care. Like,
keep on going.
You know what you're doing. It's not really that much faster. I was like, seems like it's that much faster, but whatever. If you told me to drive it to the end, you ain't got to tell me twice. I'll do it. So the first run I make, and for a little backstory, so this is the year it took Kenny Bernstein like 50-some runs to get his license. Keep that in mind. It's
in the monster car.
In the monster car.
I remember this. I remember the story.
They were nervous about going to Pomona. He didn't have a license yet.
I remember.
Because they couldn't get to the end. So I'm not caring about that, but it's kind of funny for the next part of the story. So I drive it to the end. I go 498 at 302 mile an hour or something. Tim's like,
nice run. Yeah. Good job, kid.
Good job, man.
Yep.
So we come back, and I thought the same thing. Nervous isn't the right word, because I think if you're nervous, you shouldn't drive a stupid thing.
That's right.
But I was excited. I didn't know what to expect. So I thought that was everything I expected. It was loud. It was fast. When I stick my alcohol car in second, it stops pulling, and that thing pulled to the very end. That was sweet. So we come back. I go 5 flat, 298 or something. And Tim actually goes to Olson. Dan Olson was the director at the time. He's like, hey, bud, are you really going to make me make a half-fast run? That seems stupid. And he's like, yeah, that is stupid. You're right. Here you go. So he's like, do your license. I got my license in 2 runs.
Killer.
And I was like, we were driving home, and I said, how many runs did Kenny make? Tim just laughed. He's like, don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. But it was funny. That was the power of Tim, dude.
Yep.
And people were coming up to me like, oh my gosh, that's so great for you. You did such a good job.
Yeah.
And I said, honestly, I probably could have done that with my eyes closed. That car was so great there.
Yep.
I mean, I just, and it went.
Your dad had it right.
Dude, it was perfect. And and that's kind of transitioned to, I think that's why he's so good for some of these other guys that need a license.
Sure.
He knows the setup perfect. He can slow it down a little bit. A lot of these guys get nervous about slowing it down a little bit because it'll shake. They'll do dumb stuff. He can nail it. So I digress. The point of that story was to tell you the third run I made. We went to Norwalk because Bill Bader's Night Under Fire was a show that we loved doing. And somebody pulled out or somebody broke their stuff, and he only had 7 cars. He needed 8. Tim's like, Bill called Tim. He's like, you know anybody could come? He's like, I mean, I got another car.
That's right.
If you don't care if Dan drives, you can have him.
I remember this, actually.
So Bill was like,
this.
I don't know. Do you think you could just do like a half-pass run or something? And again, Tim was like, sure. He hung up. He's like, you're not going to do that.
You're going out the back door.
It's like, okay, this sounds good to me. So this thing, I take off, and it's similar to how it was when I got my license, but it's cool outside. It's cloudy. My mother's panicking because she knows it's going to go faster.
Yep.
And even that, to go back, Tim said, hey, it's not going to go 5 flat this time. I mean, track is too good. It'll definitely shake if we do that. So it's going to go faster. And I was like,
let's go, Dad.
Let's do it, man. That
That's
sounds awesome. So I stand on the gas, and it is not even the same race car. This thing, instead of pulling 4.5 G's in the middle, it's trying to pull 5.5 G's in the middle.
There we go.
And my eyes were like, I was like, I'm a race car driver now. I got this. And in the middle, I was like, Mommy, I know race car driver. And the thing puts a hole out. It moves over. I'm driving it. I'm trying to throw the chutes. I get the chutes out, and I'm collecting myself because I'm like, holy shit, that was way different. That's not the same thing.
That's not the same race car.
That wasn't the same damn car. And Tim comes over. He's like, a little late on the chutes. I'm like, gee, thanks, Pops.
Yeah.
I thought we did pretty good. So, and that actually, that's a pretty good, that's the first, not really the first run I made.
What a run. You remember?
It went 88. It was going to go, this is where we're in a quarter mile. And it was going to go a low 80. Like, to put that hole out. Mm-hmm. I have the piston still. The backside of the piston.
That's cool.
The one it put out is because it was actually like literally out. There's a hole in it you could look through. But it was getting ready to do an insane number that, I mean, people would have been proud to qualify with. And it was my third run I ever made.
That's incredible.
It was wild. So then
really cool.
The fourth run I ever made, I was supposed to run against Ashley Force. And John Force was like, hey, man, hey, kid, how many runs you made at night? And I said, none. He's like, what? And I was like, that's only the third run I've made in my whole life. I've never run at night before. And he's like,
you gonna run my daughter?
He literally just peels out. Doesn't say one word to me.
Goes get your dad?
Elon's probably heard this. So he goes and gets my dad, and he's like, I don't want to do that. Can I race against him? Do you care? And Tim's like, I don't care, but you're going to mess up Bill Bader's show. That's like messing with Jesus himself.
That's right.
You can't do that.
That's right.
John Force can. So he comes back at the end. Now I'm going to run John instead of Ashley. I got a really cool picture. And again, was like, this thing's easy. Now I got it.
I got this.
Now I went fast once, right?
Yeah.
No problem. It's dark. I stand on the gas. It's really bright. I'm like,
Yeah, dome light came
I'm like, holy crap. Why? This is different too. Now this is like a third race car I've never drove before. And it actually moves over and I wind up shutting it off. But I have a picture of that run. Force signed it, Coil signed it.
It's really cool.
Oh, dude, it's badass.
Yeah.
But it's not, you can't really say what was your first run like because it's not even the same as the first 4 I made. You know what I mean? You can combine them all and get a pretty bad.
The same race car can be a different race car every run.
Every run. It's insane. Like those first 2 runs, I thought, man, like you said earlier, I was born to do this.
That's right.
This ain't gonna be no sweat.
That's right.
No, it's not true. Apparently, it turns out it's harder than you think.
The world wants to know, if you weren't driving or tuning a Fuel Funny car, what would you be doing?
I'd probably be an accountant. I was an accountant for 10 years before I did this.
Counting beans.
I was bean counter, my friend. A lot of people are like, how could, like, you were a CPA? And actually, this stupid thing called drag race, I never became a CPA. It's actually a super hard test to pass, turns out. So I started it, and then we started running with Brian Stewart, and I had a kid, and then we ran with Blake, and then we ran with Chad. So then it was like, I'll get it eventually.
Sure.
I never got it. So I would probably finish that test, be the first thing I did. So I could go be
a CPA.
Be a CPA.
Yeah. And you've built a great family, you know,
Yes.
and you watched your mom and dad build a great family. And you know, it's a tough balance being out here full time, you know, driving a Fuel Funny car and having your family. So let's talk about that a little bit. I know you mentioned earlier off screen that you just came back from a vacation. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's a little harder than I even thought it'd be. I lived it, so I knew it was hard. But once it's your family, I guess it's really, really a tough thing. Because what I have been able to do pretty well is while I'm here, this is, like I said earlier, this is about the only thing in the world that matters. I've gotten much better, at least now. I text my wife and my kids. It's actually funny because sometimes I'll text my wife and I get a text back and I say, "Hi, Vera." Like that was clearly not.
Yeah.
That was clearly a child.
Yep.
She got really good at. She was doing talk to text, so sometimes I just get these rambling, which honestly were some of my favorites. But
of course,
that balance is so tough in this sport because you're so busy and you're gone for at minimum 4 days out of the week, right?
Yep.
For 20 weeks out of the year. And it's actually been a little, honestly, I don't mean to sound like sap, but it's one of the harder. It's actually the only hard part of this.
Yeah, they do come sometimes, though, right?
So
we've seen them at the track.
Yep, they get to come. My boy's only 2, Gavin's only 2, so it's kind of hard. Especially, the point of bringing them is not to make life harder on my poor wife because she's got it hard enough for running this family with some lunatic that just runs off every once in a while. She's got a really hard job. So, bringing them here, sometimes it creates more work because they just want to go nuts. They just want to run around and do racetrack stuff.
Sure.
So we try to bring a motorhome if we come, and they do 5 or 6 races out of the year.
Yeah.
But my daughter was like, "Hey, I got to tell you something." Almost like she had really bad news for me. She's like, "I'm never going to work on one of those." I was like, "Okay, baby, you don't have to do anything." She's like, "Oh, I'll come with you. I'll go race with you." But
she'll be the team cheerleader.
She's like, "I'm not. That looks hard." I'm like, "Okay, well, it is hard. So we'll get you there, but I'm not gonna make you do that you don't want to do." She's like, "Okay, cool. But if I had a dragster, could it be pink?"
Yeah, of course.
She like phases, and I said, "Baby girl, I'll paint a unicorn.
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want, I'll do."
That's right.
So
right.
she's kind of looking ahead. It's crazy how perceptive a 7-year-old kid can be because it was like she sat me down because she knew it was going to break my heart. She didn't want to work on it. It's like, it's okay.
Well, she knows her dad loves it, right?
Yes.
And out of the 2 kids, which one's going to be a race car driver, right? Which one's going to be?
So my daughter is so aware of her surroundings. She would make a fantastic race car driver, but I don't know if she wants to do it.
Yeah.
So we'll have to kick it around.
What's Tim think? What's Grandpa think? Which one's going to be a race car driver? Because Grandpa's got some idea.
It's
in his head.
He's all over the place. This guy. So I think he would like to give them both a try. But my boy is wide open. He is a nut job. He'll he'll like
Sounds like a race car driver.
Yes. So they both have. If I could bunk them together, they'd make a perfect race car driver.
How about it?
But that's the thing too, man. I mean, we could go racing as a family, and they could learn from each other.
Yeah, junior funny car.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Get him a junior funny car.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
and just like yours.
Yep, that would be. That'd be. I mean, it'd be cool for me. Again, I don't want to push my thing on her, but she would be good at it.
Yeah. Well, they say driving is not genetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that the environment that you're in creates kind of a passion, if you will.
Yes.
Right? A passion for it all.
Yep.
And it creates an environment of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So third generation Wilkerson, I'd love to see that.
I'd love to see
That'd
it
be
too.
cool. We'd be two old farts watching one of them, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool?
If some jerk that runs this family, right? Or not, my wife runs it, but if it wasn't gone 80 days out of the year, we'd probably be a little easier to go junior dragster racing. But
sure. You'll find time.
Yeah, I think we'll find time.
You'll find time. Grandpa will make time. Between you and Grandpa, you guys will figure it out.
We might get into a scenario where we go backwards and Grandpa's got to go with them and I got to go by myself again someday. Yeah. I doubt it. I wouldn't want to do it without Tim. But, shoot, maybe it'll come to that.
Of course. And if it did, you'd roll with it.
Heck yeah.
I mean, look what your dad's taught you. You know, and the pride that he would have teaching his granddaughter or the grandson how to drive a race car. Could you imagine?
No, yeah. Actually, I can't.
It'd be cool, right?
It'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, And so, you look at your family life, you look at your racing life, and you do a good job of blending the two. Did your dad teach you that?
Maybe not to slight Tim, but he was establishing a business. He had 4 gas stations when I was little, a race car team, and a family at the same time. So every now and again, one of them had to fall.
Sure.
One of them had to go over here for a second. So there'd be occasions where I'd be like, "Hey, Mom,
where's Dad?
Is Tim coming back?" Yeah. He's in Bowling Green. He's fine. So my mother was, she was like my wife. She was holding that family together for short stints.
Sure.
But like I said, he's my buddy, so he was always around. And I'd go to one of the most anticipated days of winter for me. The first day it snowed, he would always take me and we would go plow and get cars out of the ditch. I don't know why I thought that was so great, because ultimately it was the thing that led me to be an accountant. But when I was a kid, I was like, "Ooh, it's a snow day. Me and Tim are gonna get to go plow. It's gonna be great." And we'd go plow, pull people out of the ditch. I learned again. He never sat me down and was like, "This is how you hook a car up." Yep. I was 10 and I watched him do it 100 times.
You were helping him do it, probably.
Yes, we were. Yeah. He's like, dig some snow out of there so I can get to that. So again, when people ask me like, "What's your dad taught you?" Sometimes it's not a super easy answer, because all I did was watch a lot. Yeah. So
actions always speak louder than words, right? Your dad is a man of action. There's no question on that.
That's a fact.
And so you look at all these years of experience, and I got to ask you, we're going to switch directions a little bit here. Let's talk about rituals, or let's talk about like things that you must do every run. What would those things be? So I think it is important to start with that if you have a habit that you have to do every run, there's going to be a run where you can't do it. There's going to be a run where you're hurried up, something went wrong, and so I don't have to, because I've learned that if you get to that point, you're sitting and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't do my thing. It's all going to go sideways." Now you're all messed up.
Now I'm all messed up. So I've gotten to a point where I don't have to do it, but I try and make enough time where I walk around the backside of the car, and I've started adding to it. Like my buddy Andy Bull went to a race and the pin was in the wheelie bar. So now I go back there, I grab the wheelie bar, make sure the pin's in it. I yank both the chutes to make sure they're pinned good. I check the chute cable because I've had the chute fall out on me once. So now I make sure it's got enough cord hanging out. And then I say a little prayer back there, and usually reference my family a little bit. And then I give her a "let's go, girl," and I get in. Cool.
So you got a little ritual.
I got a little ritual.
We all have one.
I got a little ritual.
What about superstitions? Certain pair of socks, certain head sock.
So when I was younger, Man, it's the gross one, right? I had a pair of undies. The undies.
See, everybody's got one.
The undies I got my license in.
You still have them?
No, I had to wear them all like when I ran. And my wife said, "Dude, those aren't.
Those got to go.
Those don't do anything anymore."
Yeah. Those got to go. They're falling apart.
I was like, "You're right. That's stupid. Sorry." So we got rid of them. But for a while, that was one. But honestly, now, no, not really. I can't. My mom's superstitious enough. She doesn't like 13. And
we'll let her carry that.
I'll let her carry that burden.
You became a CPA, went to school for a CPA because you plow snow with your dad. And I just got to know, what's the correlation?
So this is one of those moments in life. I don't know why I remember it. I remember weird stuff. But I was digging snow out from underneath this truck in a ditch by myself. I worked for Tim like through my teens and into my 20s. I worked for Tim. And I was digging a car out from underneath this truck so I could hook it up. And I was laying under this truck. There's cars going by, and I'm wet, and I'm cold. And I said, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm going to go to school.
It's a good reason.
So, yeah, I can tell you, I could probably drive you to the exact spot on the highway. I was sitting at home where I was.
Do you remember that spot?
Yeah. That's enough of this.
But was it a CPA thought it at that point, or was that later you had the CPA?
I kind of had it in my head that an accountant would be a thing that would.
Sure.
Everyone is going to need money counted for,
of course,
for forever, right? So I thought it'd be a good job. I could do that. And I sat around with Tim a lot. And some of those days I'd go to shop with him, and he'd be doing books, and he'd be sitting there, and he'd be like, "Oh, I can't find this 50 cent." He would be looking for 50 cents. An accountant would never look. I would.
They'd write it off.
Yeah,
that's right.
But he'd be looking for it, so I'd help him, and I was like, "This isn't bad. This is kind of an investigator job. I'd do this."
Those CPA skills come into drag racing, though. They transfer over.
It's insane.
Do they not?
Yes.
Let's be real.
I thought a lot of the people always kind of juxtaposition that, right? Like, that's like a nerdy thing, and this is a cool thing. You'd be shocked how nerdy this is. This is actually a lot nerdier than you think, because there's so much analytics and math that goes into making the thing run good. It's kind of insane. A lot of my coworkers were even like, "Oh man, too bad you can't use this." I was like, wrong again, my friends. You can. I use it so much.
100% you can.
Yeah.
I mean, these cars are math equations.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you think it handicaps you that you know so much about the race car as a driver?
So I've only had one run where it's done something and I've been like, that feels like I should probably shut this, and I'll shut it off. And I came back and Tim was like, "Why did you do that?" And I was like, I felt a weird, it like chattered going by the tree. He's like, "Yeah, it's just fast, man. It was fine." So really, I think now I'm good. Now that I've got it, I got it through my head.
Yeah.
I think we're okay. And
stop being a tuner, start being a driver.
Well, I kind of thought for sure it would help. So far, all it's done, I mean, if the computer ever stops working, it'll be great.
Sure.
But honestly, every time I'll get out and I'll be like, yeah, it was fast leaving. And then I think I had a hole out down there. I mean, the computer tells you all that.
Of course.
We had one run. We were at Phoenix and the thing had a glitch. And it actually died. I was hauling that down through there and it just fell over. It was still making noise, still loud, but it nosed over real bad. And I said, Dan's out. I'm not blowing this thing up today. So I shut it off. He gets on the radio immediately. He's like, "What happened?" I said, "I don't know. Something weird happened." He goes, "Oh, it was probably just spinning down there. You could have made it."
Yep.
And I was like, "Listen, dude, you were in here. We had like a whole conversation." I was like, you were
still in the car?
It was
of course.
In the shutdown, I was like, no, man, I'm telling you, if you're in here, you would shut it off too. So we get back and he's still laughing at me. He's like,
making fun of you.
"You're a candy ass, blah, blah, blah."
Got scared.
He downloads it. He pokes it in. He goes, oh, hey, good job. Because it died. I was like,
what was it? What was the problem?
It had the system error. So these cars will die if it has less than like 100 pounds of system error. And it's seen 90 something pounds of system error and
killed
shut it off. And then I told you it's still loud.
Yeah, it saw the error again probably.
It tried to relight it.
Mm-hmm.
So then just as the ignition was coming back on, I shut it off. And he was like, "Dude, you probably kept the body on that thing."
Yep.
So take back everything I said. Good job.
Yeah.
And it was another one of those things too, where we were sitting in there and I was like, "Hey, you meathead, go tell them good job. You just yelled at me in front of all the guys. Go tell them I did good." He's like, "Hey,
yeah,
they'll be fine. They know you're good."
You've had a couple explosions this year.
Yeah, sure.
It's different, right?
Yeah.
What's that experience like?
Honestly, it happens so fast and slow at the same time, right? like the blow ups, it's like boom. Oh, okay, it's slowing down. We're good. The fire, it's like slow motion. I crashed that car in Memphis. It is insane. It seems like it took 30 seconds, but when you watch it, it goes zzz, and it's done.
You're done.
But
Your mind slows it down.
I mean, it's crazy what your mind does.
It slows it way down.
It slows it. I think I blocked it out now, but I told my wife when I got out of the thing that, I mean, every probably 10 feet, I could tell you what I was thinking. Like,
yep.
Oh, a little bit of this. It's going to come around. Oh, a little bit. Oh, it will be fine. Oh, it's still sliding, but I'm sure it'll come around pretty soon. Holy shit, it's not coming around. So then the thing crashes and you're kind of like taking an inventory of yourself.
Sure.
Right?
Am I okay?
Oh, I'm good. So I guess we'll just ride along till it stops.
You know, I think something the world doesn't know is what we experience on the inside of the race car is not anything at all what they experience on the outside of the car.
Yeah.
And I think now's a good time to talk about that because we've both done that. We've both done a lot of spectating and a lot of driving.
Yep.
And so, you know, from your perspective, if you could describe to the viewers the difference between the two, how would you describe it?
I always do a terrible job of describing this, but
do your best.
So
we believe in you.
That feeling you get right in your chest, everything's shaking. So pretend you're riding that, and then take whatever roller coaster, the fastest roller coaster you've been on, and that you feel like your tummy comes up. So you have that too, and then feel like you got hit from behind.
Yep.
By something going 300 mile an hour. And also you can't really see that good because it's shaking so bad. It's terrifyingly loud. Like just try to put all those things together and eventually you get the funny car run. But at the same time, it's like the most peaceful place in the whole world, dude. So I used to tell people that as soon as Hartman or Tim or whoever, Joe walks away from the thing, it's the most peaceful. You're sitting in this thing. It's a bomb right between your legs.
Yep.
It's just waiting for you to light the fuse. And there's no more peaceful place in the whole entire world. All you're waiting for is for the light to come on so you hit the gas. And it's a crazy, euphoria is not the right word, but it's just nuts how still it is.
I would describe it as a relationship with your race car.
Yeah.
There's that time period where it's just you and the race car.
Yeah.
The man versus the machine.
Yeah.
You know, which we really don't talk about much anymore. But then from the fans' perspective, right? So that's what is going through it. You know, that's what you're going through. But what about the other side of it, right? So in other words, like those explosions you had this year, right? You described those, right? Happens real quick, right? Happens quick for them too, but sometimes what we think is like not that big a deal, if you will. They're like, oh my God, is he still alive?
Yeah.
Right? Touch on that.
You know, the best way for me to touch on that. So for some reason, I told you my kids come to 5 or 6. They were at both those.
Of course they were.
Why not? So at Chicago, like you said, I get out and I'm like, crap. This body's ruined. Like, what a bummer. You're not really even thinking of you. So I get around the corner and my baby girl's crying. She's like, what are you going to do? Are you okay? What's happening? And I said, oh, we got another one of those. We're fine. She's like, yeah, but your race car is broken in half. I was like, it's okay.
We got another one.
We got another one. She's like, instantly. I mean, there was a single tear dripping down her cheek. And she's like, oh, okay. But you're good. And you got another one? Okay, no problem. Like, she thought we had to go home, and she was so bummed. And the same thing happened at Bristol. The thing caught fire. She's like, oh, no, you ruined your spare. Because in her head, this is the spare, right? We don't have any more. She's like, you ruined the only one you have left. I said, no, we got one more. Oh, okay. Go get him. It's so funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. When we come back, we'll have our funny car, Fast 5.
Watched Tim smoke the tires out there. I said, nope, bagok, chickened out again, but it worked. I told the guys, free tortillas for life. So as soon as we started, it's cornfield all over the place, so I just hooked it up. And we didn't get a chance to do a good burnout. We didn't warm up, but who needs them? We got them. Just so we'd go down a dirt road, we probably could have ran down the return road. Hey, don't go anywhere without me. Stop that Tahoe. I raced with guys for 15 years. I know that sounds stupid because I'm 35, but I raced with guys for 15, 20 years that wanted to get to this point right here. And we got one more to go. We'll get them. Well, first off, I'd like to see a time slip. I'm getting old, apparently. I can't read what it went, but it's just cool to win something for us. It's awesome. We got the old girl on repeat. I'll tell you what, we prepared that packing slip to ship them boys back to Ypsilanti and Gainesville, and they've been returned to sender all year long. They've been handing our ass to us. We look like we know what we're doing. Oh, Vera Rose, I know you're watching. Love you, baby. Fix this thing. I don't even know who we got. We got the racetrack. We'll try to go get it. I've been rendered speechless. I didn't think it was possible.
Welcome back to Talking Funny Cars with Daniel Wilkerson, and we are ready for our Funny Car Fast 5. So, Daniel, I have to ask you, who's your favorite race car driver?
Tim Wilkerson.
Of course.
That's easy.
Come on now. And what's your favorite racetrack?
Norwalk, Ohio.
Okay.
Sun Motorsports Park.
I can understand that. The ice cream's good.
Yeah.
Yep. And your favorite funny car of all time? It doesn't have to be one of yours or your dad's. It could just be your favorite car.
You know, I think it actually is Tim's. He had a Ford Probe in the early 90s, an alcohol funny car.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember that car.
Dude, it was gorgeous. It hung up on our wall. And it might be one of those things because it hung up on our wall for so long, but I love that one.
Yep. And what was your best race of all time?
I would say Indy 2003. Tim won. First Indy he won.
Okay. It's good. And describe what it's like to drive your Feel Funny car in 15 seconds.
I don't know if that's possible. So
do your best.
It's the most peaceful place in the world. For 2 seconds, you stand on the gas and all hell breaks loose. You're strapped to a rocket. You've lit the fuse on a bomb that's shaking you, pulling you. And just when you think you got it, all of a sudden you don't got it anymore. It puts a hole out, it moves, and you're crossed up trying to drive the stupid thing. And then you get to the end. You've never been so happy in your life to experience such chaos.
Yeah. Shoots are out. You're not on fire. You're in the middle of the racetrack.
Everything
you
is
didn't
great.
touch anything. That's right. I know the feeling. Well, Daniel, we want to thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. I think the world now knows a lot more about you and your family and your racing career. And so, once again, thank you for coming on Talking Funny Cars with Buddy Hull.
Well, thank you for having me, my friend.
Thank you very much. Fun. Thank you.